Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into a truly, well, astonishing story. It's one that offers a profound blueprint for anyone building something new, or maybe just navigating this world of overwhelming complexity.
It really does.
Imagine this.
Yeah.
One of the world's absolute biggest social media platforms, right?
Right.
A place where over 2 billion people connect, share, express themselves every single day.
2 billion.
And it was built from scratch in just 8 weeks.
8 weeks. It's quite staggering when you put it that way.
Isn't it? That's less time than many companies spend just on initial concept meetings. And it turned into this global empire.
It really did. In an era where tech giants, they take years, sometimes decades, billions of dollars to scale. Instagram's beginning is almost an anomaly.
Right.
And the central figure in this whole whirlwind creation is Kevin Systrom. His initial idea was, well, it sounds simple. Let people share their lives through beautifully presented photos.
Deceptively simple, maybe.
Exactly. Not just any photos, mind you, but images that resonated, that told a story, that evoked a specific feeling.
And that's where the intrigue really kicks in, I think. This isn't just another tale of an overnight sensation, or some lucky break.
No, not at all.
It's a compelling narrative about intense vision, incredibly sharp design thinking, and this relentless, almost, you called it monastic, pursuit of simplicity.
That's a good word for it, monastic. And the person behind it all, Kevin Systrom, he isn't your typical Silicon Valley archetype.
Not at all. He wasn't born into wealth. He wasn't some child prodigy coding from his crib.
Right. None of that.
And he certainly wasn't a celebrity founder from day one.
That's such a crucial distinction, I think, and it's one that makes his story so incredibly relatable and, frankly, inspiring. When you conjure an image of a tech billionaire, right? Or a startup founder who hits it big.
Yeah, you picture someone different.
You do. You often imagine someone who's been immersed in code since childhood, maybe from an elite university, maybe connected to venture capital right from the start. But Systrom, well, he was actually working as a barista, serving coffee during the day.
Wow.
And meticulously coding during his nights. His path was anything but conventional, which makes his eventual trajectory all the more remarkable.
Okay, so get this trajectory then. In 2010, this guy, the very barista we're talking about, launches an app, almost instantly gains 1 million users.
1 million, just like that.
Then, in less than 2 years, it gets acquired by Facebook for a staggering $1 billion.
1 billion.
With a B. It's hard to even fathom.
And today, just a little over a decade later, Instagram is estimated to be worth well over $100 billion. It truly is an almost unbelievable climb. Humble beginnings to global dominance.
What's truly fascinating here isn't just the sheer scale of the financial outcome, though that's obviously huge. It's the blistering speed.
Right, the speed. From a tiny idea, really, born from the ashes of a previous project, to a $1 billion acquisition in under 2 years. It's just a masterclass in focused execution.
So our mission today in this deep dive is to go way beyond that surface-level success story.
Exactly. We want to peel back the layers, really try to understand the specific mindset, the daily habits, the breakthrough strategies that made this kind of meteoric rise even possible.
So we're looking for a blueprint, essentially.
In essence, yeah. We're looking to extract a practical, maybe even actionable blueprint for anyone listening who aspires to build something impactful, whether that's an app, a business, or even just a project in their own life.
Okay, let's unpack this blueprint, starting with something foundational, and I think this might genuinely surprise a lot of people. Kevin Systrom's financial mindset, how he fundamentally thought about money.
Yeah, this is key.
Because you might expect a story of someone obsessed with chasing profits, ruthlessly optimizing for revenue from day one.
But that's simply not it at all. No, it was quite the opposite, actually. His core principle was deeply ingrained in designing inherent value first. Always value first.
Okay, inherent value.
Money, for Systrom, was almost, well, it was secondary. A natural outcome if you got the value part right. He treated capital not as the ultimate goal itself, but more like fuel.
Fuel for growth.
Fuel for growth, fuel for the vision, exactly. Fuel to achieve something much grander, building something truly indispensable for its users. And look, this wasn't some naive idealism.
Right, it sounds strategic.
It was deeply strategic. He understood that true wealth isn't just extracted, it's created by delivering real value.
And this mindset, It becomes incredibly clear when we look at the pivot he made from his first venture, bourbon.
Ah, yes, bourbon.
What exactly was bourbon, and why was it such a significant, maybe even painful, turning point on the road to Instagram?
So Bourbon was a location-based check-in app. This was around 2009, 2010, kind of the Foursquare era. All right.
Yeah, I remember that.
But Bourbon had a lot more crammed into it. Systrom himself later called it bloated and overloaded with features.
Gloated, okay, like feature creep.
Exactly. Think of a digital Swiss Army knife, but one with like 50 different tools, most of which you'd never actually use, and they just make the whole thing too heavy and unwieldy.
Right.
It had check-ins, yeah, but also a point system, event planning, a photo sharing component, which was key, but also complex social gaming stuff. It was just a lot.
A classic example of trying to do too many things for too many people.
Precisely. And it ended up losing its focus. It was kind of a diffuse offering in a market that was already getting pretty crowded.
So he had this product, this Swiss Army knife, and
Yeah.
it wasn't really clicking. It was suffering from that common startup problem,
Yeah,
trying to be everything to everyone.
exactly, despite all the effort.
So what was the bold decision he made, and why was it so financially smart to actually cut things back? Sometimes brutally, it sounds like.
The bold decision, and you're right, this took immense courage, was to cut basically everything from bourbon except one core thing, for photo sharing.
Just photo sharing.
Such photo sharing, and specifically photo sharing with that innovative addition of filters. Now, this wasn't just a simple design tweak, let's make it look nicer. No, it was a profound financial and strategic move. His rationale was deeply rooted in cost efficiency and achieving this incredibly sharp, almost surgical focus on core value.
Okay, cost efficiency. How so?
Well, in a market already saturated with social apps, he intuitively understood that winning wasn't about being the biggest or having the most features. It was about being the most precise, the most elegant, the most indispensable in one very specific niche.
Precision over sprawl. I like that framing.
Yeah.
But let's dig into precision a bit more.
Yeah.
What was the direct financial upside of stripping away all those extra features from bourbon? How did that help the business?
It translated directly into immediate cost savings and, crucially, a longer runway for the company.
Runway meaning time before the money runs out.
Exactly. Think about it. Every check-in feature, every point calculation, every one of those redundant things on Bourbon was a drain on their server infrastructure.
Right. Servers cost money.
They absolutely do. More features mean more code, more potential bugs, more data storage, more processing power needed. Each of those things costs money, server space, bandwidth, maintenance.
Okay.
By ruthlessly cutting these, they dramatically lowered their operational expenses, which directly impacted their burn rate, how quickly they were spending their seed money.
And for a lean startup, that's critical.
Absolutely critical. They only had $500,000 in seed funding. Extending that runway, that precious time before running out of cash, was paramount. It wasn't just about saving a few bucks. It bought them the vital time and focus they needed to really nail the product market fit for Instagram.
So it allowed them to invest their limited capital where it mattered most, perfecting that single photo sharing experience.
Precisely.
That's a really counterintuitive approach for a startup, though, isn't it? Most founders feel pressure to add more, keep up with the competitors.
It definitely goes against the grain.
But Instagram launched with just $500,000 in seed funding, which, even in 2010, wasn't a massive amount in the tech world.
Absolutely not. $500,000 was significant seed capital, sure, but it wasn't a war chest by any means. They couldn't afford waste.
They got it from Baseline Ventures and Andreessen Horowitz, right? Top-tier firms.
Yes, top firms, which we'll get back to. But it meant they had to be incredibly resourceful and lean from day one. No flashy offices, no big teams.
It's just the worst.
Just a small, intensely focused group. And this lean approach was directly tied to solving what the sources called a massive emotional problem.
Okay, what was that?
The deep, innate desire people have to share beautiful moments.
Right.
Instantly, easily, without needing, professional photography skills or complicated editing software. That feeling.
And it sounds like his definition of success wasn't tied to those typical financial metrics you hear about. He wasn't chasing downloads or the next big funding round.
No, not initially. His metric was far more fundamental and deeply user-centric. He kept asking, are we building something people can't live without?
That's a high bar.
It is. It's a question about inherent value, about creating a truly indispensable tool, a daily habit for users, not just chasing vanity metrics like download numbers. And this almost obsessive focus on deep user need and that emotional connection, It led to something truly unprecedented.
Which would?
Organic growth on a colossal scale.
Unprecedented is the right word. 1 million users in less than 2 months.
Less than 2 months.
Without any paid marketing or the usual VC-driven hype. That's just astonishing. It defies so much modern startup thinking.
It really does.
What specifically about Instagram's launch showed such strong product-market fit right out of the gate?
That instant connection, that almost gravitational pull the app had, that's the ultimate sign you've hit product market fit. Think about the timing, 2010.
iPhones were taking off.
Exactly. Smartphones are becoming ubiquitous. Everyone suddenly had a pretty decent camera in their pocket. People were taking photos of everything, their coffee, their cat, their commute.
Yeah.
We all were. But these photos often looked, well, kind of uninspired, right? Grainy, maybe poorly lit, just mundane. And sharing them was clunky. You'd email them or upload them later to a desktop site.
Yeah, it was a process.
Instagram just walked right into this huge, unspoken gap. It offered this effortless way to transform those ordinary photos into something beautiful with just a single tap, using these really nice filters.
Filters are key.
Absolutely key. And then instantly share them with your social circle. The market had this unarticulated need to express themselves visually, to elevate their everyday moments, to feel like an artist without needing the skills or the effort.
And Instagram just nailed it.
It provided the perfect frictionless solution, that instant aha moment for millions of users, that feeling of empowerment and creative expression. That's what truly defines Instagram's incredible product market fit. It didn't just meet a need, it tapped into an aspiration.
The power of that fit is just incredible. And the key takeaway here, for anyone listening, thinking about their own ventures or even just their financial approach, it seems profound. Kevin Systrom didn't obsess over money directly.
No, he didn't.
He obsessed over designing intrinsic value, solving that deep emotional problem with elegant simplicity. And that obsession, ironically, made Instagram one of the most valuable social products ever.
Precisely. It just proves that focusing on the user, on creating something they genuinely love and can't live without, can lead to unparalleled financial success.
It highlights a timeless truth, doesn't it? Build something truly valuable, something that genuinely resonates.
And the financial rewards often follow. Sometimes, like in this case, on an unimaginable scale.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for me. Because that obsession with value, that almost spiritual commitment to solving that core user need, it translated directly into a highly strategic approach to financial strategy and investment.
Yes, absolutely.
It sounds like it was almost an art form of leverage. Every dollar, every decision maximized for impact.
That's a great way to put it. Systrom wasn't about raising these massive, splashy funding rounds just to make headlines, or chasing unicorn status for the sake of it.
Right.
His strategy was defined by speed, razor-sharp clarity, and, crucially, picking the absolute right partners who really understood his product-first vision.
And this methodical approach, it started even before Instagram really existed as we know it.
Exactly. That's what's fascinating. This strategic thinking was in play before the pivot.
So back in March 2010, before the big pivot from Bourbon, he secured that initial $500,000 seed funding. But you're saying the value wasn't just the cash.
Precisely. The $500,000 was obviously essential. It was the working capital, but the strategic value he gained was arguably even more important.
So?
By getting investment from Baseline Ventures and Andreessen Horowitz, he wasn't just getting a check. He was gaining access to advisors, mentors, people renowned for their product-first thinking.
Ah, the smart money idea.
Exactly. These weren't just financial backers, they were intellectual partners. They understood the power of a small, focused team with a clear vision. They weren't pushing for feature bloat. They were advocating for clarity and simplicity, their guidance, their connections, their belief in that lean, product-centric approach that was potentially more valuable than the capital itself.
Leveraging smart money, not just any money. Okay.
Yeah, right.
And then came that sharp pivot we talked about from Bourbon, the incredibly swift launch. They consciously decided against the Swiss Army knife approach.
Yes, a moment of profound discipline. Systrom and his co-founder, Mike Krieger, made that definitive call. Cut everything but photo sharing with filters.
No half measures.
No, it wasn't a slow, incremental shift. It was decisive, almost brutal. And they didn't waste a single second afterwards.
8 weeks, you said.
They launched Instagram on October 6, 2010, just 8 weeks after that pivotal strategic redirection. That kind of speed, coupled with such sharp focus, it's incredibly rare. It shows an exceptional ability to just execute quickly on a clear vision.
The speed is incredible, yeah. But what about the launch strategy itself? They didn't just throw it out there everywhere, did they?
No, that's another key strategic choice.
They launched exclusively on iOS, and it's ignoring Android, ignoring the web. What was the thinking there? How did that contribute to the explosion?
This was a masterstroke of strategic precision and deep user psychology. It really defied the conventional wisdom of, capture every market segment from day one.
Right, go broad.
They went deep instead. In 2010, iPhone users were a very specific demographic, almost an elite group in tech terms.
Early adopters.
Early adopters, yes. Typically keenly design conscious, often camera obsessed, especially with the iPhone 4's improved camera coming out around then.
Right.
Generally very socially active online.
Okay.
Systrom wasn't trying to target the entire planet immediately. He was deliberately targeting tastemakers.
Tastemakers, interesting term.
Yeah, those influential early adopters who are always on the cutting edge, always keen to share new discoveries within their networks. These weren't just casual users. They were often designers, photographers, artists, social media mavens.
People whose opinion carries weight.
Exactly. By adopting Instagram early, they signaled its coolness and utility to their broader, maybe less tech-savvy followers. They became organic evangelists, far more powerful than any paid ad campaign could ever be.
And the impact was immediate.
Yeah.
You said 25,000 signups on day one.
25,000, day one, and it rocketed to the #1 free photography app in the App Store within 24 hours.
Oh, that's rapid validation. Instantaneous almost. But it also says something about how they marketed themselves, or didn't.
Absolutely. And this is the real high-leverage move that sets Instagram apart. Even today, Kevin Systrom never spent a dollar on traditional marketing.
Zero marketing spend.
For that kind of growth. Zero. It grew purely, astonishingly, through organic network effects. Every single time someone posted a filtered photo from Instagram onto Facebook or Twitter,
Their friends saw it.
their friends saw it. The sheer visual appeal of these transformed photos just prompted that inevitable question, what app is that?
The product itself was the pitch.
It was the pitch. The users, those carefully chosen tastemakers, became the most effective, most authentic marketers imaginable. It created this self-perpetuating viral loop built right into the product's core function.
Which meant that initial $500,000 could go entirely into the product.
Exactly. All into product development, scaling the infrastructure, not wasted on expensive ad campaigns they didn't need.
That's the dream for any startup, right? Your product markets itself. Your users are your evangelists.
It's the holy grail.
And the growth numbers just kept going up. 2 million users in just 4 months.
4 months, yeah.
And then this explosion to 30 million by April 2012. It's like a textbook hockey stick graph, but real life.
It's genuinely explosive growth. And naturally, that kind of trajectory caught the eye of the giants. Facebook. This unprecedented growth led directly to that historic acquisition. $1 billion. Cash and stock. Just 551 days after Instagram officially launched.
551 days. Less than 2 years.
Think about that. From a nascent idea, basically salvaged from another app, to a $1 billion exit in under 2 years. It's almost unparalleled in tech history for speed and scale.
And the truly remarkable fact, the one you just have to let sink in because it defies all conventional business wisdom.
Yeah.
This acquisition happened with no revenue.
Zero. None.
It was purely based on that exponential user growth and the sheer burgeoning power, the cultural influence of the brand it had already built in such a short time. What did that signal to the market?
It signaled, especially to Facebook, that Instagram wasn't just another app. It was a cultural phenomenon in the making. $1 billion for zero revenue. That's not about traditional financial metrics.
No.
It's a valuation of future potential, of network effects, of a growing global community, and importantly, of that unique emotional connection users had with the product.
It was strategic for Facebook.
Hugely strategic. To preempt a formidable competitor, yes, but also to bring this powerful new visual language into their own ecosystem. It was just a masterclass, really. Understanding market timing, maintaining that surgical focus, deeply grasping user psychology.
And translating it all into these high-leverage investment decisions.
Exactly. Every choice Systrom made felt designed to maximize impact with minimal resources. And the result was just, well, unparalleled.
When we talk about that level of focus, that intentionality, it really brings us to a deep dive into Kevin Systrom's personal habits and behaviors.
Yes, the how.
Because he wasn't the loud look-at-me founder we often hear about, right?
Mm.
Constantly seeking the limelight. His superpower, it seems, was something far quieter, something he embodied. Obsessive refinement.
Indeed. He wasn't out there chasing press conferences or headlines. While other founders were maybe pushing out new features constantly, sometimes sacrificing polish, Systrom was chasing a feel.
A feel. Explain that.
He truly believed that every single pixel, every interaction, every tap within Instagram had to evoke something specific. Emotion, for him, wasn't some happy accident of design.
No.
No, it was a deliberate, engineered outcome. Meticulously planned, meticulously executed. This goes way beyond just making things look pretty. It's about crafting an experience that's intuitive, frictionless, and crucially emotionally resonant.
Designing for feel rather than just function or adding more features. Can you give some specific examples? How did this emotional design play out in the app beyond just the filters?
Sure. Think about features like the Lux button they added later. It wasn't just a basic brightness slider.
Right, did more.
It intelligently balanced shadows and highlights, making ordinary photos instantly feel more professional, more artistic. With just one tap, it made a mundane photo feel, I don't know, gallery-worthy.
Yeah.
Or think about the subtle warmth of the Valencia filter, that classic faded look of early bird. These weren't aiming for hyperrealism. They were about evoking a specific mood. Nostalgia, maybe, or brightness, a timeless quality.
They weren't accidents.
Not at all. Engineered to elicit a specific emotional response from the user, and just as importantly, from the viewer. The filters weren't just a gimmick, they were tools of emotional transformation. Even something as simple as the double tap to, like, a photo.
Which everyone does now.
Right. It was designed for immediate, satisfying feedback. That quick burst of visual confirmation, it just felt good.
And that desire for perfection, for the right feel, tied into one of his specific daily disciplines, taking photos. This wasn't just a hobby for him, was it?
No, not just a hobby at all. It was an intentional practice, almost scholarly. He routinely took photos as a discipline, rigorously studying light, composition, color grading.
Like user research.
Exactly. His primary form of user research and product development, this deep personal engagement with the craft of photography, is precisely why Instagram's filters weren't just simple color overlays you could find anywhere else.
They felt different.
They offered genuine transformation. You could take an ordinary snapshot your lunch, a cloudy sky, and with one tap, turn it into something visually stunning, something shareable, something you were actually proud of.
It wasn't just making photos look better.
It was about making users feel more creative, more capable, more artistic, empowering them.
And that leads to his really profound insight, the one that captures the emotional core of Instagram. People aren't sharing photos. They're sharing how they see the world.
Such a deep understanding, right? Far beyond just pixels and code.
Lovely.
He got that the filters weren't just a fun feature, they were powerful tools. They empowered users to express their unique perspective, to elevate their everyday moments into a form of personal art.
It became about identity.
It tapped into that primal human desire for self-expression, for connection, for validation, through sharing a piece of oneself, one's aesthetic, one's emotional landscape.
So we have this obsessive refinement, this laser focus on feel, a deep understanding of visual storytelling. But he was also incredibly disciplined in another way, maybe less glamorous. Relentless editing, ruthless feature cuts. He was famous for saying no, wasn't he?
Absolutely famous for it. Systrom was notorious for cutting features, even if they were genuinely cool or technically impressive.
What was his guiding principle?
His guiding question was always almost brutally simple. Does this add clarity or clutter?
Clarity or clutter, okay.
If something, a new button, a complex setting, even a seemingly valuable feature added fiction or confusion, even emotional friction, it was out. Gone.
Wow.
He believed simplicity wasn't just nice to look at, it was foundational to usability, to clarity, and ultimately to adoption. Think about it, for years, Instagram didn't have direct messaging.
Right, which was standard elsewhere.
Totally standard. Why? Because Systrom believed it would clutter the core photo sharing experience. It would shift the app's focus. That's relentless discipline right there.
And this wasn't just about the product in isolation. He had this deep personal connection with the users. He didn't just look at data dashboards.
No, his level of product empathy was exceptional, almost legendary, really. He valued every single bug report, every App Store review, every support email.
Really?
Yeah, there's a well-known story during Instagram's first few weeks when user growth was exploding and the servers were, sometimes struggling.
I've been chaotic.
Totally chaotic. He would personally respond to angry users at 3 o'clock in the morning
Wow. Himself.
himself, not because he had to or because it was scalable, it obviously wasn't, but because he genuinely wanted to feel the pulse of his users. He wanted to understand their frustration, their joy, their every interaction in real time on a visceral level.
That kind of hands-on connection, that dedication.
It's incredibly rare, especially as things scale.
Yeah.
And it instilled this user-first culture right from the very beginning.
That speaks volumes. And even as Instagram scaled up to millions and millions of users, his daily rhythm sounds almost monastic, you use that word again, almost countercultural in the startup world.
It really was. Even as the company grew rapidly, pressures mounted, his routine stayed remarkably consistent and focused.
What did it look like?
Morning coffee, a deliberate walk to the office, small, highly efficient team huddles just to align on priorities, and then long, uninterrupted blocks of deep product thinking and coding.
Deep work.
Deep work, no fluff, no overcomplication, no endless meetings or constant distractions. It was all about quiet, focused, detail-obsessed founder discipline.
And you think that kind of intentional routine separates the real innovators?
I think it's truly what separates the trendsetters who define categories from the trend chasers who just follow. It's about building thoughtfully, with profound care, not just reacting or building fast for the sake of speed.
That idea of thoughtful, almost surgical building, it leads us right into his overarching philosophy for life and business. Do fewer things better.
His mantra.
It really defined everything at Instagram, didn't it?
It absolutely did.
Yeah.
And it stood in such stark contrast to a lot of the Silicon Valley thinking at the time. Especially Facebook's famous mantra, move fast and break things.
Right, the polar opposite almost.
While so many others championed speed and iteration above all else, Systrom believed in something more like move thoughtfully and build beauty.
Build beauty.
Yeah. He wasn't just trying to outpace competitors or grab market share by adding more stuff. He was relentlessly pursuing elegance. In design, in function, believing that quality and user experience would ultimately win out over sheer quantity. It was a philosophical stand, really.
And this philosophy was reflected directly in his team structure.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about the scale of Instagram's user base, is just astonishing, almost unbelievable.
But it really is, and it's a huge testament to the power of focus and efficiency. Instagram did not rapidly scale its engineering team.
Right.
In fact, when Facebook acquired the company for that $1 billion, Instagram had only 13 employees.
13. 13 people supporting tens of millions of users. How is that even possible?
It seems impossible, right? But it wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate choice, rooted in that philosophy. He believed great products emerge from small, trusting teams with a singular focus.
Where communication is easy.
Exactly. Seamless communication, everyone deeply aligned. He consciously rejected growth for growth's sake in terms of headcount. He felt larger teams often just introduce complexity, slow things down, dilute the focus.
But practically, how did 13 people manage that scale? The servers alone.
Well, it speaks to extraordinary operational efficiency and automation. That was central to their design from the start. First, they leveraged cloud infrastructure heavily.
Okay, so no massive server farms to manage in-house.
Right. They outsourced a lot of that raw computing power. Second, the product's extreme simplicity, that ruthless cutting of features we talked about, meant fewer lines of code,
Fewer bugs.
fewer potential bugs, and therefore less need for a huge development team or a massive customer support army. A simple product is inherently more stable, easier to maintain.
Makes sense.
And critically, having that small, tightly knit group fostered immense collaboration and that singular focus. It avoided the communication overhead, the organizational inertia you see in bigger companies. This lean approach wasn't just about saving money, it was a profound strategic advantage. Agility, speed, maintaining a clear vision. It was a cultural choice.
So a small, focused team creating something incredibly elegant. Which brings us to another core belief of his, one that feels almost paradoxical for such a visual app.
Yeah?
Great design is invisible.
Yeah, that's a fascinating one.
What does that actually mean in the context of Instagram where the visuals are everything?
It means the app wasn't built to impress other engineers or designers in Silicon Valley. It wasn't about showing off technical tricks for their own sake.
Yeah.
It was built to empower ordinary people, to let them express themselves beautifully, seamlessly, effortlessly. When design is truly great, you don't notice the design itself.
You just use it.
You just use it. You feel its effortless effectiveness. The technology fades into the background and the user's creativity, their expression, comes to the forefront. This required huge humility, restraint, profound respect for the user experience.
The app served the user.
Exactly. It enabled them rather than drawing attention to its own cleverness or complexity. Think about Instagram's upload process or the endless scroll. It's so intuitive, so frictionless. You don't think about it as design, you just do it. That's invisible design.
And speaking of influential figures in design, Systrom often cited Steve Jobs as a big inspiration.
Yes, definitely.
How did Jobs' philosophy, especially his approach to simplicity, connect with Instagram's whole lean and beautiful philosophy?
The connection wasn't just about, clean aesthetics. It was deeper, more philosophical. It was about clarity.
Clarity.
Just like Jobs famously removed unnecessary ports from the MacBook, simplifying the hardware down to its essential core. Systrom relentlessly eliminated infinite menus, complex settings, any kind of distraction from Instagram.
Getting rid of the clutter.
His goal was to distill the entire experience down to one core, singular, almost magical action, capturing and sharing your world beautifully. Both Jobs and Systrom understood that true elegance isn't about adding more stuff. It's about removing everything that isn't absolutely essential to that core magic.
Saying no.
Saying no to 1,000 good ideas to focus on the one great one. Jobs famously said something like, simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple. Systrom applied that exact rigor, but to a social product, not just hardware.
And that desire to create something pure, something meaningful, it even extended to how he approached making money, right?
Yeah.
Monetization.
Yes, another counterintuitive move.
For its initial years, Instagram deliberately avoided chasing aggressive ads or direct monetization, which again, for a VC-backed startup, sounds crazy.
It does, but this is a crucial point. It speaks volumes about his philosophy, his long-term vision. Systrom explicitly aimed to protect the serenity, he called it, the inspirational feeling of opening the app.
The feeling again.
Always back to the feeling. In an industry so often fixated on metrics, engagement minutes, click-through rates, immediate ad revenue, Kevin Systrom stayed deeply obsessed with cultivating meaning, positive emotion through the product.
So he prioritized user experience over immediate profit.
Absolutely. He prioritized the user experience and the cultural impact over quick financial gain. He must have faced immense pressure to monetize, especially with that explosive growth and a billion-dollar valuation with zero revenue.
You'd think.
But he resisted. He understood that protecting that pure, almost ad-free feeling would ultimately yield a more valuable, more trusted, more enduring product in the long run.
Delayed gratification.
A profound act of delayed gratification. He believed if the user experience was compromised too early for profit, the magic and thus the long-term value would just erode. And looking back, he was absolutely right. It paid off handsomely.
This brings us to the really big picture, the ultimate impact, the power thinking, the cultural influence. Because Systrom didn't just build an app for pretty pictures.
No, far from it.
He fundamentally reshaped how billions of people see and present themselves to the entire world.
It's a huge statement, but it's absolutely true. Instagram wasn't just about utility. It became a primary platform for identity.
Identity, interesting. How so?
Well, think about Facebook. Primarily, it fostered connection between existing friends, family. Instagram became a powerhouse for self-expression, for curating a personal brand, for visually articulating who you are, maybe who you aspire to be.
Expression over connection.
That distinction was culturally profound, and Systrom, I think, intuitively understood the immense gravity of this shift. He recognized that whoever influences how people tell their stories, how they present their lives visually, they ultimately shape culture itself on a global scale. It moved beyond just being a photo album. It became a visual autobiography for billions.
And it was all built entirely around this visual language.
Yeah.
Right from the start, optimized purely for images, not text or status updates like other platforms.
Yes. That was a key insight. People were already communicating visually more and more. Smartphones became these ubiquitous, high-quality cameras, and these cameras became, in a way, mirrors of the self.
Tools for self-documentation.
And self-expression. Instagram just emerged as the central stage for these personal visual narratives. The timing, coinciding with mobile photography really taking off, was perfect.
And it empowered everyone.
It transformed every ordinary user into a potential artist, an influencer, a personal brand manager. It really democratized visual artistry. Systrom himself said it beautifully. We're not just building a tool, we're building a lens through which people view the world.
A lens, wow.
He saw it as a new medium for self-discovery, for shared experience, mediated through visuals.
And that lens had massive, far-reaching cultural ripples, didn't it? It wasn't just about sharing photos anymore. It changed whole industries.
Profoundly, across the board. It dramatically altered fashion, think street style, becoming a global phenomenon, the rise of the influencer. It redefined food photography. Suddenly, restaurants had to consider how their food looked on Instagram. Dishes became meticulously styled art for the camera.
Instagrammable food.
Exactly. And it popularized the whole concept of Instagrammable places, destinations designed or sought out explicitly for visual sharing, boosting tourism in sometimes unexpected places.
And created new jobs.
Totally new professions.
Yeah.
The full-time content creator, the digital nomad traveling the world, the aesthetic curator, the social media strategist specializing in visual platforms. Instagram became this new form of social capital.
A visual portfolio.
Your posts became your personal portfolio, influencing perception, status, even commerce everywhere from Sao Paulo to Seoul, London to Tokyo, even world leaders, CEOs, politicians. They now strategically use Instagram for their public image, direct communication. Its reach and power are just undeniable.
That is immense power, shaping global culture so pervasively. And Systrom, despite his quiet nature, he recognized that this influence came with huge responsibility, right? Far beyond just running a tech company.
Absolutely. He was consciously aware of the enormous power he wielded, the potential implications of every single design choice.
That must have weighed on him.
Reports suggest it did. That's why he was apparently deeply involved in crucial, often sensitive decisions. Things like filters, comment moderation policies, how the algorithm prioritized content.
Because tiny tweaks could have big effects.
He understood that every subtle tweak could subtly shift emotions, interactions, perceptions across the globe. He reportedly spent significant time grappling with complex issues like body image, self-esteem, the spread of misinformation, acknowledging that Instagram wasn't just a neutral platform.
It was an active shaper of experience.
An active shaper. He seemed to carry that responsibility seriously, engaging in dialogue around ethical design long before it became the mainstream tech concern it is today.
And even though he left Instagram back in 2018,
Yeah, his departure.
the core values he instilled, that simplicity, beauty, intentional design, they really feel like they continue to define the platform's essence, don't they? It's his enduring imprint.
They absolutely do. Despite his physical absence, that philosophical framework, the foundational principles he established, they remain deeply embedded in Instagram's DNA. He might not dominate headlines or seek the spotlight. He prefers building quietly, intensely. But the systems, the cultural frameworks he put in place, they continue to silently move global culture, shaping how billions communicate, create, connect every single day. His legacy is quiet, maybe, but incredibly pervasive and transformative.
So when we synthesize this entire journey, this blueprint Kevin Systrom laid out, his story isn't just about building a massively successful app. It feels like a powerful testament to what happens when simplicity meets obsession.
Right, when clear vision meets relentless refinement.
You're right. He didn't just chase scale for scale's sake. He focused so intently on the feel of the product, on that emotional resonance.
He didn't race to build fast and break things. He chose to build right, with exquisite care, prioritizing elegance over just sheer expansion.
And that mindset, that unwavering intentionality, it really did profoundly alter the internet landscape. It showed that quality, that user experience, can be the ultimate growth engine.
Absolutely.
So if we were to distill it down, maybe to 3 timeless lessons for anyone listening, anyone building something, or maybe just navigating their own complex challenges, what would be the core of the blueprint?
Okay, 3 lessons. First, I'd have to say it's about precision over quantity.
Precision over quantity.
The lesson is that success often isn't about doing more, it's about doing far less, but with just incomparably greater precision and focus. Systrom ruthlessly cut away all the noise, the extra features, the fluff, the distractions, until only the absolute core remained. That photo, that beautiful filter, that story.
That intense focus.
That almost surgical focus allowed for unparalleled execution, a clarity of purpose that just resonated deeply with users. It proves that often, less truly is more, especially when that less is perfected.
Okay, that's number 1. What's number 2?
Second, building on that simplification. Design is communication, not just decoration.
Design is communication.
Yeah, Instagram resonated so deeply, so immediately, because it didn't just function well, it felt good to use. It evoked those positive emotions, making users feel creative, seen, understood in their desire to beautify and share their moments.
Spoke a language.
Exactly. Systrom's meticulous refinement of every pixel, every interaction, it just underscores that beauty, elegance, emotional resonance. They aren't nice to haves or afterthoughts. They are essential foundational components. They drive adoption, loyalty. They speak a language beyond words.
Powerful. And the third lesson.
And finally, the third lesson, maybe the one with the biggest societal implications, the power of shaping perspective.
Shipping perspective.
But crafting a platform that championed visual storytelling above all else and making it so effortlessly accessible, Kevin Systrom gave this incredibly powerful voice to a generation, multiple generations now, that naturally communicates through images. He didn't just create a product.
He redefined culture.
He fundamentally redefined a significant aspect of digital culture itself, influencing how we interact, how we express ourselves, even how we view the world around us. He showed that by subtly influencing how people tell their stories, you can subtly but profoundly influence culture itself.
And maybe, just maybe, the biggest, most provocative thought for you, our listener, to take away from this deep dive into Kevin Systrom's journey is this. Sometimes, in a world that constantly screams for more, faster, louder, the most powerful and transformative thing you can possibly do is to create something profoundly simple and to make it truly, undeniably beautiful.
A powerful thought, and an enduring one to consider in our increasingly complex world.
So if this deep dive into Kevin Systrom's journey sparked an idea in you, maybe a reminder that even small, well-executed ideas, driven by that clarity, that discipline, that focus on intrinsic value, they really can change everything, then let that resonate. You really don't necessarily need millions in funding to start or a massive team to succeed. What's often paramount is that profound clarity of vision, that unwavering discipline to execute, and yeah, the courage to simplify, to cut away everything but the core.
That's truly at the heart of it, isn't it? And here at the Deep Dive, our mission isn't just to glorify success stories. It's to meticulously try and understand the thinking, the strategies that truly underpin them.
Decode the blueprint.
Decode the blueprint, exactly. Give you the insights you might need.
So if you found value here, if this conversation gave you an aha moment, something you can apply to your own life or work, please share this deep dive. Share it with anyone you know who's building something, or maybe just needs that powerful reminder that being clear often triumphs over being the loudest. Until next time, stay sharp.
And stay simple.